If you think child predators have it bad in court, think again. Actual justice for these lowest of the lows starts behind those iron gates. They're locked away in places where even the guards don't care. Overcrowded cells, rampant disease, scarce food, and constant violence turn survival into a daily fight. Today, we're diving into prisons so brutal that even the toughest criminals struggle to make it out alive. 1. Diyarbakir Prison. This massive, foreboding structure in southeastern Turkey is the Diyarbakir Prison, a place that has become synonymous with suffering and human rights abuses. The prison was established in 1980 as an E-type facility by the Ministry of Justice. E-type prisons in Turkey are designed to house inmates in dormitory-style wards, each accommodating multiple prisoners. This aims to facilitate rehabilitation through communal living and shared activities. However, the events following its establishment significantly altered its intended purpose. On September 12, 1980, Turkey experienced a military coup that led to widespread political upheaval. In the aftermath, Diyarbakir Prison was transferred to military administration, becoming known as the martial law military prison. During that era, Esat Oktay Yildiran, a Turkish military officer, was appointed as the governor of the prison. But Yildiran soon became infamous for his extensive use of torture against inmates. One of the primary torture techniques used was the application of electric shocks. Devices such as field telephones were repurposed to deliver high-voltage shocks to various parts of the body. Various forms of hanging were also employed. Prisoners were suspended in painful positions for extended periods, leading to dislocations, muscle tears, and severe circulatory issues. This method was designed to inflict maximum pain without leaving visible marks, making it difficult to document the abuse. Falaka, the beating of the soles of the feet, was another common practice. This method caused excruciating pain and could result in long-term damage to the feet, making it difficult for victims to walk. Sexual violence, including rape, was also systematically used as a tool of humiliation and control. Sleep and food deprivation were standard practices aimed at weakening the prisoners physically and mentally. Extended periods without sleep led to hallucinations, cognitive impairments, and heightened susceptibility to other forms of torture. Similarly, withholding food caused malnutrition, further debilitating the inmates. In some cases, the authorities resorted to torturing the relatives of prisoners in their presence. This method was used to exert psychological pressure, forcing detainees to comply or confess to crimes they may not have committed. The conditions in Diyarbakir prison during this period were so severe that between 1981 and 1984, 34 prisoners lost their lives. You think that's horrifying? Imagine what happens when you're a child predator in this environment. It's no secret that such offenders are despised even among the worst of criminals. In Diyarbakir, being labeled as one of them likely means enduring not just the cruelty of the guards, but also the wrath of your fellow inmates. But what if you were among the very few lucky ones who were not on the receiving end of this torture? Well, you were still not in the clear. You see, torture alone didn't make this prison infamous. The facility was originally designed to accommodate 744 inmates. However, reports indicate that it often housed far more than its intended capacity. For instance, in October 1996, the Human Rights Commission of the Grand National Assembly of Turkey visited the prison and found that, despite a capacity of 650 at that time, it was accommodating 942 prisoners. The overcrowding led to inadequate access to basic necessities such as food, water, and medical care. Inmates were often forced to sleep in shifts due to a lack of beds, and sanitation facilities were insufficient for the number of prisoners, leading to the spread of diseases. Think Diyarbakir is awful? Wait until you hear about this next prison, which is 10 times worse. Klong Prem Central Prison. Located in Bangkok's Chatuchak district, the Klong Prem Central Prison houses thousands of inmates, including a significant number of foreign nationals. As you would have already guessed, overcrowding is a persistent issue here. Cells meant for a handful end up packed wall to wall. This means personal privacy is virtually non-existent. Inmates sleep on thin mats placed directly on the floor, packed so tightly that movement during the night is limited. The daily routine is rigid and monotonous. Inmates are awakened early in the morning, at around 5:30 a.m. By 6 a.m., prisoners are required to leave their sleeping quarters. The day continues with various activities, including work assignments, limited recreational time, and meals. At 5 p.m., inmates return to their sleeping quarters, followed by meditation and prayer time at 7 p.m. Lights out is enforced at 8 p.m., marking the end of the day. The food provided is often insufficient in both quantity and nutritional value, leading many prisoners to rely on money from relatives to purchase additional food from the prison canteen. However, not all inmates have this financial support, leaving them to endure constant hunger. Sanitation facilities are inadequate, communal toilets lack privacy, and access to clean water is limited. Inmates are responsible for cleaning their living areas, but with limited cleaning supplies, maintaining hygiene is a constant struggle. The prison clinic is often understaffed and lacks essential medications, leaving many inmates without proper treatment for their ailments. Anyhow, abuse by prison staff is disturbingly common in Prem prison, adding another layer of suffering to an already unbearable existence. Inmates have recounted instances of physical punishment for minor infractions, such as talking out of turn or failing to follow orders promptly. Solitary confinement is used as a disciplinary measure, with prisoners placed in small, dark cells for extended periods. Shackling is also reported as a form of punishment. Inmates may have their hands and feet bound, restricting movement and causing significant discomfort. In some cases, prisoners are shackled for days or even weeks, leading to physical injuries such as bruises, cuts, and long-term musculoskeletal issues. Finally, there is forced labor, yet another punitive measure reported within Prem. Inmates are compelled to engage in strenuous labor, such as sewing, folding paper, or repairing shoes, often for meager compensation. Refusal or inability to perform these tasks can result in further punishment, including physical abuse or extended sentences. If you thought life at the Bangkok Hilton was brutal, it's nothing compared to what goes on at Rikers Island. Rikers Island. Spanning over 400 acres in the East River between the Bronx and Queens, this is one of the largest and most infamous correctional facilities in the United States. Its history, however, is riddled with controversy and problems. Named after Abraham Riken, who acquired the island in 1664, Rikers was purchased by New York City in 1884 for $180,000. Much of its expansion was achieved through convict labor, using landfill to increase its size to its current sprawling footprint. The first permanent jail here, however, the House of Detention for Men, was built in 1933. Over the years, additional facilities were constructed, making Rikers a complex of 10 jails. Nevertheless, over the years, countless reports have highlighted the inhumane conditions inside. Photos obtained by the New York Post in 2021 showed horrific overcrowding, with inmates crammed into tight spaces, lacking basic necessities. Inmates have reported being responsible for cleaning the facilities, often without proper equipment or support. This lack of sanitation has contributed to the spread of diseases within the prison. Additionally, the prison has faced significant staff absenteeism, leading to inadequate supervision and increased violence among inmates. The treatment of inmates at Rikers has been a major concern. Reports of physical abuse, neglect, and excessive use of solitary confinement have been widespread. In 2021, at least 16 inmates died while incarcerated at Rikers, highlighting the severe conditions and lack of adequate care. These deaths have been attributed to various factors, including violence, medical neglect, and suicide. But guess what? Reports indicate that when inmates are in dire need of assistance, guards may not intervene effectively, leaving prisoners vulnerable. The lack of oversight has allowed gangs to proliferate within the prison walls, leading to increased violence and a culture of fear among inmates. A federal monitor's report highlighted that violence, staff shortages, and overall dysfunction at Rikers were not improving. The report emphasized that the jails remained unstable and unsafe for both inmates and staff, with the first few months of 2022 revealing persistent instability. This environment is particularly perilous for vulnerable inmates, including those convicted of crimes against children. Such individuals are often targeted by other prisoners, facing heightened risks of assault and abuse. Nonetheless, one of the recent and most notable cases is that of Caliph Browder. In May 2010, the 16-year-old was accused of stealing a backpack and arrested in the Bronx, New York. Despite his insistence on innocence, he was charged with robbery, grand larceny, and assault. His bail was set at $3,000, an amount his family could not afford, leading to his remand to Rikers Island. Browder's pretrial detention extended over 3 years, during which he faced numerous court delays and postponements. The prosecution offered multiple plea deals, all of which he rejected, maintaining his innocence. During this period, Browder spent approximately 800 days in solitary confinement, a practice known to have severe psychological effects, especially on adolescents. In June 2013, the charges against Browder were dismissed, and he was released from Rikers. However, the prolonged isolation and harsh conditions had taken a significant toll on his mental health, and on June 6, 2015, Caliph Browder died by suicide at his mother's home. Rikers is so infamous that even New York City wants it gone. There have been ongoing discussions about its closure and the implementation of reforms. In 2019, New York City officials announced plans to close Rikers Island by 2026, replacing it with smaller borough-based jails. This decision was driven by the desire to address the inhumane conditions and systemic problems within the facility. However, progress has been slow, and the prison continues to operate under the same harsh conditions.